The New York Jets finished the 2021 regular season with a 4-13 record, and within the 4-13 record, there were predictably a lot of large losses, like a 54-13 loss to the Patriots, and like a 26-0 loss to the Broncos, in which the offense looked downright woeful. However, there were a lot of positives for the Jets in 2021, and there is genuinely a lot to look forward to this year. They beat the Bengals and they beat the Titans last year, which is something even the Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs couldn't say they accomplished in 2021. And to be clear, within the lot to look forward to for the 2022 Jets, it's within context, as while we will break everything down regarding them in today's video, I'm not predicting that they're going to win the East over Buffalo or anything absurd like that. And guys, I am amped that football is back, and what better way to kick off football being back than with this great deal from DraftKings. New customers, all you have to do is bet $5 and you'll instantly receive $200 in free bets using promo code analysis, and the link for this will be in the description. Personally, I'm thinking about placing $5 on this parlay with Carolina beating Cleveland and Baltimore beating New York in Week 1. Football is back, guys, and $5 to receive $200 in free bets using code analysis is a great way to start the new NFL season. Again, a big thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video, and now we break down the 2022 season and a little beyond that for the New York Jets. The Jets had a tremendous offseason. The goal of every football team from one offseason to another is to get closer to winning a championship, whether that's trading for Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill, or having 3 first-round picks and another pick in the top 40 like the Jets did. All of these teams got closer to winning a championship. However, for all of the strides the Jets have made over the past few months, I don't think they're going to do that well in 2022 for a few reasons, and surprisingly none of them have to do with Zach Wilson. This isn't going to be an 11 to 12 minute slander of him or anything like that. It has a ton to do with the schedule and how difficult it is for them, not just for the first game or two to really set the tone for their season, but for the first 9. No team wants to wake up and play the Ravens, even if it's at home in Week 1, especially with a team with unproven weapons in Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Michael Carter, and everyone else. I like what the Jets did this offseason by adding Wilson, and Elijah had a good span in his rookie year where he looked like a long-term player for this team, but I don't think they're going to dominate or get theirs per se against Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, and then have to deal with Kyle Hamilton and Marcus Williams in the secondary. At Cleveland is not an easy game even without Deshaun Watson, as they have a bruising offensive line along with a bruising back in Nick Chubb, and even though they are playing Jacoby Brissett, it's going to be a tough game regardless. And we're not going to break every game down like this, but it does not get any easier playing Cincinnati in Week 3, a team that will be looking for revenge, and at the Steelers, and you can see the rest. I would not be surprised if this team starts out 3-6 or 2-7 because of how difficult this stretch of games is. In a lot of ways, I think this team will resemble the 2019 Jets from a win-loss standpoint, and for Jets fans that may not remember, that team that year started out 1-6 but finished the year 7-9. After the bye is not anywhere close to as difficult to the first stretch of games, and there are games they will lose in here, but it does not compare to that gauntlet to start the season. And the biggest thing I can't stress enough for the Jets here is if they do start out bad, this does not mean Robert Saleh should be fired or Zach Wilson isn't the guy at quarterback. I mean, it could be that way, don't get me wrong, but it should be known they are going to go into most, if not all of those first 9 games as an underdog, meaning they are going to be expected to lose. There will probably be several positive flashes in that first stretch of the season, but when you have a quarterback at 23 years old, a running back in Breece Hall at 21, Garrett Wilson at 22, and Elijah Moore at 22, they should not be expected to compete with the Broncos in Denver this year. And the main thing to remember here for the 2022 Jets is to progressively get better week in and week out. No one expects this team to be a 10 or 11 win team, and there's usually a lot of comments regarding teams like the Jets or Jags, teams with second-year quarterbacks looking to take strides, that they may be this year's version of the Bengals. And while I don't want to outright say that is impossible, I don't think either of them will be, and more specifically for the Jets, because that's the team we're focusing on in today's video, I don't see it happening. Cincinnati had to have a lot of things go right for them to get as far as they did last year, and outperformed every expectation imaginable. The Jets have the Bills in their division, and we can call it what it is. The Bills are a better team in 2022 than the Jets. I do love the long-term outlook of their receiving duo of the future in Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson, and for various reasons. Elijah first, and he finished his rookie year with 43 receptions for 538 yards, which on the surface does not sound like a whole hell of a lot, but he only played in 11 games, and within his rookie year, there was a very solid 6-game span for him where he had 34 receptions for 459 yards and 5 touchdowns, which translating to a full 17-game season would have put him on pace for a 96-catch, 1,300-yard, 14-touchdown season at just 21 years old. This really flew under the radar last year because of a lot of other good rookie receivers, not just limited to Jamar Chase, but also players like Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. Garrett Wilson was a top 10 pick for a reason, and for what all of the Jets did not do for Sam Darnold to invest in pieces around him, they are doing the exact opposite for Zach Wilson, which is obviously good to see. Wilson had over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns last year. This is Garrett Wilson, the receiver, not Zach Wilson, the quarterback, and is walking into an offense with other solid playmakers around him. From a statistical standpoint for both Moore and Wilson, I truly am unsure how that will look in 2022 because we don't know how much of a stride Zach Wilson will take, and we also do not know how long Joe Flacco will start. They also have a good tight end room, which was something they had to address this offseason because their tight ends last year were abysmal. And a lot of the time, young quarterbacks like to throw the ball to their tight ends because they are usually big, reliable targets, and a lot of the time they just sit down in zone coverage and are very quarterback friendly. Their tight ends last year were led by a 31-year-old Ryan Griffin, and their second tight end was Tyler Kroft, and yeah, that's not good, and that's putting it mildly. They added Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzomah this offseason, and Conklin quietly had a good year last year in Minnesota as he finished the 2021 campaign with 61 receptions for 593 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had been in the shadows of Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith, and when Rudolph was cut prior to the season starting, combined with Irv Smith having a season-ending injury, Conklin stepped up. CJ Uzomah had 49 receptions for 493 yards and 5 touchdowns in his final season in Cincinnati, and while neither of these guys are going to go for 1,000 yards this year, they're solid NFL tight ends, which was a lot more than you could say about Griffin and Kroft. I also love the potential of Breece Hall and think he will be a consistent 1,000-yard back when he officially receives the starting job. And the Jets defense has a lot to look forward to in 2022 as well, and it starts with the return of pass rusher Carl Lawson. Jets fans were looking forward to him in 2021, and rightfully so, but his season ended before it ever got started as he ruptured his Achilles. But in 2022, they have a good front four of Lawson, Quinnen Williams, John Franklin Myers, who is a very underrated player, and first-round pick Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine, in his final year at Florida State, was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year and should be a solid pass rusher for the Jets even in year one. He will have other players on the D-line to take away attention, which in theory should leave him with a ton of one-on-one opportunities. I'd also love to see Quinnen Williams take another step this year, and while he has been solid as a defensive tackle, I don't think he's been worth the number 3 overall pick good for the Jets. I really like the linebacking core led by CJ Mosley, who had over 165 tackles in 2021 alone. Quan Alexander is also a solid addition to the defense for the Jets, and while I don't think CJ or Quan are going to tear the league apart or be the next great linebacking duo or anything absurd, I do think they will bridge the gap between this generation of Jets and the next generation of Jets, as when GM Joe Douglas took over, he had a lot of work to do that he is still in the process of taking care of. And of all 4 top 40 picks they had in this year's draft, the one player we have yet to discuss is rookie corner Sauce Gardner. It's very, very easy to get excited about him, but what I do want to preface Jets fans with is be excited about your young corner, as he is more than likely a future long-term starter. Just don't be surprised if or when he gets burned this year, and multiple times at that. Aside from quarterback, I do think corner is the toughest position to make the transition from college to the pros, as it's one thing for Sauce to play the number 1 receiver from American Athletic Conference schools on a week-to-week basis, to playing Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs twice, Tyreek Hill twice, and Justin Jefferson all in one season. And that's no disrespect to Sauce either, I just don't think a rookie corner will fare the best week in and week out against some of the absolute best the NFL has to offer. The 2022 Jets are young, and the starters at the most important positions in football are young, and not surprisingly, I do not think this team will make the playoffs this year. It also does not help the Jets that they are in what will probably be the most loaded conference in one season in NFL history, at least to date, and that they are still rebuilding. So I don't think their record will honestly be all that improved from last year to this year. They may hit 5 or 6 wins, and maybe even 7 if they're lucky, but I certainly do not think 9 or 10 wins is in the cards for them. And remember, they will be underdogs in a lot of games this year, but the important thing is if you can compete with teams that they'll play, like the Bills, Packers, and Bengals, and push them to the wire and make Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers have a game-winning drive against you when they play and not get beat 54-13 like they did last year to New England, that's tremendous progress and a lot to look forward to in their future. But the Jets for 2022 specifically are a rebuilding team, and rebuilding teams have a lot to look forward to, and the Jets are no exception. The progression of Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, and everyone else is something I'm going to be paying very close attention to. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, now is the time I ask you to please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world and help tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.